The New Zealand Ministry of Health has front-footed a stinging attack against the makers of a documentary about to screen on Television New Zealand.
Our real concern is that this documentary does not show you the whole picture.
The documentary was screened in Norway 2 weeks ago and is highly critical of the MeNZB vaccine that is used by New Zealand health officials to curb the rise of meningococcal disease amongst our children.
Now, this documentary has been shown in Norway and there has been a reaction to it in the public, and we're expecting that same reaction here, that it will confuse some people around the program that we have rolled out here in New Zealand.
Clearly, when it comes to child health, public interest is paramount, but this issue rests on a debate of faith in either health professionals or those who say the vaccine can cause children harm.
You have the responsibility of reporting what those of us experts in this area believe to be the facts. We base our comments on science.
I'm a paediatrician, I work in the emergency department. I've been in paediatrics throughout this epidemic. And the couple of points I want to make are, firstly, this is an epidemic of a very serious disease that kills children. In the midst of the epidemic, we were seeing children every week that didn't just come in sick, they needed intensive care and life support, so very, very serious. I also, as along with my paediatric colleagues, have looked after children where they've walked in the door with a few spots. We've done everything we can to treat them, and they've died 4 hours later.
I'd like to reflect on this Norwegian documentary that is to be shown on Sunday. I have read this transcript. I am appalled at this transcript. I have never seen such a story called a documentary. This would not stand up to any quality control or scientific peer review. If it wants to call itself a documentary, it is not medical science based. It works on anecdote and pulling our heartstrings and using little pieces of misrepresented statistics. I guess I'd like to reflect for me on the two most obvious examples. The particular documentary talks about children being given the Norwegian meningococcal B vaccination in a trial. They then talk about the number of severe adverse reactions in this group. Now, stunningly, they failed to mention the number of severe adverse reactions in the control group, in the matched group of children who were not given the vaccine and who were also monitored over 3 years and who incidentally had a higher rate of severe adverse reactions. So we do need to understand cause and effect before we bandy around anecdotes that scare the hell out of all of us.
Along with my colleagues, we have no problems in vaccinating our own children because we know that simple fact. If our child got meningococcal disease, there's a good chance they might die. It's a disease that needs to be prevented because it has such a high mortality rate.
I'd also like to reflect on the end of this program. They made comments about the number of fully vaccinated children in New Zealand that have caught meningococcal B disease. I believe currently that's around 27. They completely failed to mention the 158 unvaccinated and partially vaccinated children who have had meningococcal B disease in New Zealand.
Occasionally there are serious adverse events, but we have an independent safety monitoring board who has looked at all events following MeNZB and they have no safety concerns.
The panel of health officials were also extremely critical of a man called Ron Law, who has been campaigning for New Zealand to have a rethink on this most controversial vaccine.
Why the New Zealand people being quoted in it have no academic background in immunisation programs. My understanding that Mr. Ron Law has a background as a laboratory technician. That is not New Zealand's evidence-based scientific approach to this vaccination.
One of the questions, Ron, that was put in there by the panel of health representatives was, who is Ron Law, what does he stand for, and what's driving his agenda to raise this issue in New Zealand?
Well, those are all good questions. If the Ministry of Health dealt with issues rather than personalities, then there wouldn't be a problem. The problem is that they're not dealing with issues.
One of the criticisms was that your background as a lab technician, as they put it, does not qualify you to make comment on such an issue of public interest.
I'm a citizen, I'm a parent, I'm a medical laboratory scientist. I have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. I lectured in management at university for a number of years. I lectured in clinical biochemistry for 10 years. I spent half a day a week in the medical library for 10 years. If that doesn't qualify me to comment, what does?
I am very worried for parents and for the public of New Zealand. I think we're all deeply concerned as the effect this will have, because there is a sense of where there is smoke, there must be fire. There will always be a sense of, well, there must be something in this.
One of the other criticisms was that this documentary that's due to screen on television in New Zealand was irresponsible and actually compromised the public interest aspects of a vaccination program for such a serious illness as meningococcal. What's your view on that?
Yeah. Well, I think people just need to watch the documentary and make their own conclusions.
It is clear that these documentary makers had an agenda, and I think you can tell that just by the screen time given to those of us who are speaking on in favour of the program versus those with an anti-immunisation agenda.
This is Selwyn Manning for Scoop Media in Auckland.